Greetings. This is the Solo Gamer. You may call me Matt. And hopefully you're all having a very good day and a good new year. Just back doing a little bit of retro gaming action, but I wanted to share something with you real quick. Last time I was doing some of this retro stuff, I mentioned I had something coming in as special for my next video, and well, here we go. Batman Forever, the arcade game. Specifically the PAL version, as far as I know. Very hard to get the US version of this thing, I should note. But this is one of those rare little acclaim pieces of madness that I have got to share with you. So let's get started. Here we go. So, for those of you not familiar, this was a late release port of an arcade game made by Acclaim near the back half of the PS1's lifespan. It also was released to the Saturn and other platforms. Hard to get the Saturn version, I don't know why. But it was based on Batman. It was based on Batman Forever. And then it's a very straightforward sort of baseline beat 'em up. Not a whole lot there. And boy, does that 90s era show.
Who is Batman?
And I just want to do a quick demonstration of this game and just how utterly insane it is. Now, to its credit, for its era, it was actually very technologically advanced for its time. And they did a fairly decent job converting it over to say, the PS1 and the Saturn, which naturally had very, very limited... Oh, nuke time! The Bat Nuke. Which, admittedly, at its time, had very limited, processing power comparatively. But they did a damn good job of converting it over as best they were able to. But the way the game works is very simple. You have your basic attack, which is kicks. Then you have what would normally be your punch, if you didn't have any weapons on you. But here's the rub. When you have weapons, your punch changes into whatever weapon you're carrying. On the other hand, if you have just the... Uh-oh. That's bad. And now I'm mini bat. But yeah, when you have your regular punch, you have just a regular punch, but when you have any weapon of any kind, it turns into whatever weapon you picked up. The bats. I summon the bats. Now, one thing that this game was notorious for was its absolutely ridiculous crushing difficulty, which, to be fair, I mean, it was an arcade game. It kind of came with the territory. Unfortunately, that didn't translate over well to the home console, naturally. And given that this was, at the very back end of the PlayStation's lifespan, it didn't surprise anybody that it was kind of a weird bit of work, but it was still pretty good for its time. And it was a lot of fun to play with a tag team because 2 players turned this game from crazy to utter and complete just madness. And nuke time. Yeah. Oh, yep, bola. Which will allow you to actually catch and throw enemies automatically. Yeah, like the game is just complete chaos and insanity.
And multiple knockout. Multiple knockout.
And if you get like multiple knockouts, you get bonus points. And I mean, it is arcade as all get out, and the game knows it is, and it is admittedly like it knows what it's doing. And then you can switch characters to Robin, who, I mean, he plays identical. Like, there's no difference with him. He plays pretty much the same as Batman did. And like, he has the same special moves, he has the same super abilities. The biggest difference with him is that he uses them slightly differently because he's not as strong, but he is more acrobatic than Batman, so. Alright, let's see what's happening in the club. And to be fair, on the original PS1, the loading on this was awful.
Double damage.
Yeah, you can get bonuses after each round. To its credit, like, the loading on the game wasn't awful, but it wasn't exactly good.
Riddle me death.
Oh, all the enemies are tiny now. So I can literally just walk over them if I want. To be fair, I do not like playing as Robin anywhere close to as much as Batman, because he is a lot harder to use, and his moveset is very stiff. You can kind of feel where they definitely didn't actually get the job done with him, where he did not have the. And yes, there are super moves. Each character has some special techniques, like Robin has this big flip jump, he's got an uppercut. Whoops, I didn't mean to pick him, but that's okay. Yeah, as a fighting game, it's pretty good as a basic beat 'em up. It's the over-the-top, just sheer madness of the power-ups that gives it its unique flair. And to its credit, that is a lot of fun, but damn, this game can be tough. I used to For the record, the controls were also not as responsive, especially for whatever reason. Robins are like just completely stiff. I don't know if that was intentional or if that was just a mess up in the programming, but it does not work anywhere near as well as it should for Robin. I much prefer Batman. He's simply just way more responsive for some reason. You can definitely tell this game was ported on a time crunch. Like, the movie was coming out and they wanted it out immediately. And you have your obligatory boss battle. And now you... Yeah, it works and works pretty well. And it is a fun game. Like, it is silly, it is over the top, it is ridiculous, but it's a fun game.
VR mode. VR mode.
Because he freezes everybody. The bats will just automatically seek out and kill everything that they touch. Now, one thing I didn't mention is that the game's whole thing is based around that power bar. Basic attacks do not drain it, but anything else, like any super moves, will. And it's clear that that's supposed to be like the whole focus of the game is to make these super moves work, but because of how hard it is, you'll get immediately obliterated if you keep trying it. Thankfully, like any good arcade game of its era, all it cost was quarters, so when they brought it home to the home console, you didn't even have to worry about that anymore. Which was not something we saw a lot of back then either.
Multiple knockouts.
One of the biggest problems is the grapple mechanic is so touchy in this game. Like, it will kick off all on its own without any warning. Oh, there's the bat taser. But yeah, like I said, this is a fantastic little beat 'em up, but it's one of those absolutely manic quarter munchers that was designed and built to just take your money. But on a home console, well, ain't no way to take. Oh, instant nuke. Just yeah, like this game is supremely fun, especially with 2 players, but it is just madness incarnate. Anyway, moving on to some other stuff. I thought I'd go through and see what else I've recently acquired. And beyond that, I did get a copy of NFL Blitz, which is cool. And keeping the theme with that, I've also recently gotten copies of Killer Instinct and a few other games. So, let's see. And of course, my PlayStation collection. I'm still looking for Alien Resurrection. But yeah, I've actually acquired both the original Battle Arena Toshinden 3, still looking for 2. Bunch of different games on here, all the Colony Wars series, which is awesome. Awesome. I did get Fighting Force, but for some reason it won't run. It might be just another one of those games that has a glitch in it. Oh, Soul Reaver. The remaster for this is out, and it actually is really good. It's very well done, so I recommend it. And both of the original Psychic Force games, both of the Road Rash games, Rival Schools. All this can be run from the menu now. I don't, since they're installed on the memory, I don't actually have to put the disc in anymore. Here's a classic.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Howard Finkel.
If you're an old school wrestling fan, this is probably giving you PTSD right now, because God, I remember this game in the arcade. I sunk so many quarters. But this was one of the earliest, like, this was like right as the Mortal Kombat craze was at its apex. Yeah, it was definitely like they wanted to do like Mortal Kombat but for wrestling. And yes, it does have fatalities, and no, I cannot get them to work. I don't know why. It is incredibly difficult. And there were actually 2 of these. This one, and then In Your House was the other one.
And listen to the crowd. What's that cheer up to? Oh, what a scale!
But yeah. This was like one of those early, like right after MK hit the market and was really blowing up. This was one of the early attempts to get in on that, and I remember it being just utter ridiculousness. I mean, it is what it is, but it definitely was one of those things. Alright, so let's wrap it up with something a little bit different. Street Fighter 6 just announced that they're bringing Mai Shiranui to their game from the King of Fire series. Can't help but wonder why they feel the need to bring her when they've got plenty of busty babes in their inventory, but hey, I'm not one to complain. You know, Mai was always an all-time favorite for me. But back in the day, did you know Street Fighter actually let another company develop their game? Yeah. The Street Fighter EX series. It was really their first attempt at a... It was one of their first attempts at a 3D fighter, and no, it was not highly successful. It was unique, and definitely had some cool mechanics for a time, as well as some really cool characters.
Round 1, fight!
I would dare Capcom to bring this character back. But the game was supposed to be a 3D polygonal fighter, but in truth it was actually still a 2D fighter, just using 3D character designs, which did not go over well. Like, a lot of people felt it was a betrayal of the game, of the series' roots, and didn't work. And this was all in the same time as rival schools, mind you, so... God, I have not played this in so blasted long. But yeah, like, all of her moves are kick-based. Yeah, there were a lot of problems with the series. It was early on, you could tell they were trying really hard to get the 3D combat environment stuff working out, and it wasn't ready, so they kept it 2D and used the 3D character designs. Fair enough. But you could tell they were trying it. But here's the interesting thing for me. This was released in 1977. Whereas in 1998, they released Rival Schools. And this was actually like a vastly superior game to that whole series. And then you look like at the same time they were doing that, Soul Blade came out in 1997. And then so did Versus. I mean, like, this was like the golden age of 2D to 3D fighting. Kensai was 1998, so within 2 years they had like 8 of these games on the market. And then right near the end of the PS1's lifespan, they released Gauntlet Legends and a few others. Like 1999, SNK released Fatal Fury. And then what was Evil Zone? Evil Zone was also 1999, so like right in this ballpark is when they were running all these games through. Even Bushido Blade was 1997 and 98. So this was the era. Like, this was right when the video game market was in the 3D fighting game fugue. Takara did, in 5 years they did 3 games plus a couple of spin-offs, and then, you know, like I said, this was the time frame, and that's just here. Like 1996, King of Fighters, of course. But then on the Saturn, you had Fighting Vipers, 1996. You had Real Bout, 1997. You had Real Bout 1 and Real Bout 2. You had Pocket Fighter, 1998, which is still one of my absolute favorites. You had Vampire Hunter, which was 96. You had Ballerina Shinden, which was 96. Pardon me. Virtua Fire Remix. All of this came out in that same era. And at the same time, that was when Eternal Champions was out on the CD. So you have to keep in mind, in a matter of 5 or 6 years, they went from stuff like this. Well, no, actually, that was 1995, so that was still within it, but this is American comparison. They went from stuff like this to, you know, the stuff you see in the PlayStation era. That was within 3 to 5 years. That wasn't even a long gap. That was a huge leap. And then Dead or Alive at the same time. Like, this is, when people talk about the good old days, a lot of them are referencing like the Nintendo, Super Nintendo era, but the truth of the matter is, this was the era where things really sort of exploded and became like super high end. Oh, I wanted to show you this. This game runs, but because of its unique scrolling system, is broken. Watch. Yeah. If you're a kid in the 90s, this is your jam. Yeah, Rita up to bad things. No surprise. But let me demonstrate. Let's see if they fixed it with the update. Nope, see? Notice how some of them are in... Notice how some of them are in the background, some of them are in the foreground. Yep. Some of them are broken. Like, this game still doesn't work on the Polymega. Which happens. I mean, it's not a perfect machine. It does have its flaws, but it still works pretty well, all things considered. And the fighting game works just fine, so. But yeah, Pilot Wings, Hyperzone, In the Hunt, the Paradise series. I mean, the fact that all these games can be played cleanly and efficiently on one platform is crazy town. But that's, again, another reason why I picked up the Polymega was explicitly because of its flexibility. And I actually need to look into some other games I want to play. I don't recall taking any pictures, so okay. And like, what's funny is that even stuff I don't have actual games for, I have games for. Because this stuff came with the system automatically. It's actually in the game by default. And they're good like sample games. And then it also has some NES stuff. You can actually sideload like third-party games onto it. It works pretty well. But yeah, this is arguably the most flexible and universally supported system I've ever seen. It works really good. And the funny thing is, I actually have Final Fight 2, but I have it for the Famicom, so it's in Japanese. And then I have Final Fight 3, which is actually in English. So that's a thing. God. Failings. There's two shoot 'em up games that are like legendary for their weirdness and the box art. One of them is Failings and one of them is Axlay. And all these games are still fairly available in the market. Like Spectre is a good example. Spectre is a good example of readily available in the marketplace. You can find this game. And I actually have two copies, one of which is Busto, and the other is correctly functional. But Spectre was one of the first early attempts to make a 3D shooter on the Super Nintendo. It was a very basic system. Basic system with notably some problems in that it didn't have certain things that it should have, like, for example, there was no means by which you could do things like strafe, which was annoying. So planning and positioning was exceptionally important. bigger problems was you had limited ammo, and you had a very, very limited amount of health. So if you took a lot of damage, the game ended exceptionally fast, and it was difficult. Like, for its era, this game was practically unrivaled as a shooter. It was a brutal game, but
Level complete.
it was pretty fun. But like I said, the best thing about these is you can play them automatically right from the menu system. Super Off-Road, Off-Road the Baja. Which Off-Road the Baja is hilarious, because it's essentially like they said, okay, let's take Off-Road, see what comes out of it, and it came out pretty crazy. Super Punch-Out, UN Squadron, Royal Rumble. All of these run straight out, including Mario Kart, All-Stars, the whole 9 yards. Still need to get my hands on Kirby Superstar, but anyway, I just wanted to share with you some of the recent additions to my collection and the utter chaos that is the retro gaming scene right now. But if you're interested, or if you like the old school retro gaming aesthetic, it's definitely worth it to get your hands on this. The Polymega is a bit of an expensive unit by itself. Just putting that straight out there for you. But with it and its attachment modules, you basically have a one-stop game shop. And with the updated and revised hardware and software, it constantly gets better, so worth looking into. Either way, I'll catch you guys next time. Next time I might be doing some more Star Trek or getting back into Sins of the Solar Empire. Not sure yet. But I will see you next time. This is the Solo Gamer, signing out. Goodbye.